What if the childhood tradition of placing teeth under pillows was never about money or fairy magic? What if something far more sinister has been visiting children's bedrooms for centuries, collecting something much more valuable than baby teeth? Tonight, we're diving deep into one of the most disturbing urban legends ever whispered, the story of the tooth fairy that doesn't just take teeth. It takes what keeps you alive. In the suburban town of Millbrook, Dr. Sarah Chen had seen her share of strange cases during her 15 years as a pediatric surgeon, but nothing could have prepared her for the pattern that would soon consume her every waking moment and haunt her dreams. It started with little Emma Rodriguez, age 7, who arrived at the emergency room in the early hours of a foggy Tuesday morning. Her parents, Maria and Carlos, were beside themselves with panic. Emma had gone to bed perfectly healthy the night before, excited about losing her first molar and the dollar she'd find under her pillow. Instead, they found her unconscious, her small body cold and pale, with a surgical incision along her abdomen that seemed impossibly precise. The strangest part: her tooth was gone, but so was something else. Something that would change everything Dr. Chen thought she knew about the world. The hospital's monitoring equipment showed that Emma's kidney function was severely compromised, as if one of her organs had simply vanished. But the scan results defied medical logic. There was no scarring, no trauma to surrounding tissues, just an empty space where a healthy kidney should have been. As Dr. Chen examined the sleeping child, she noticed something that made her blood run cold. Under Emma's pillow, where a shiny coin should have been, lay a small yellowed tooth that wasn't Emma's. It was too old, too decayed, as if it had been waiting for decades to make this exchange. The antiseptic smell of the hospital couldn't mask something else lingering in the air around Emma's bed, a sweet, cloying scent that reminded Dr. Chen of flowers left too long in a vase, beautiful on the surface but rotting underneath. Emma's case would have been filed away as a medical anomaly, a one-in-a-million occurrence that science couldn't yet explain. But Dr. Chen's world was about to spiral into something far more terrifying when she realized Emma wasn't the first child to experience this impossible surgery. 3 more children arrived within the following week, each following the same horrifying pattern. 7-year-old Marcus Thompson, missing a lung. 9-year-old Sophie Williams, missing part of her liver. 8-year-old David Park, missing sections of his intestines. All had lost teeth the night before. All had been visited by something that left behind ancient, rotting teeth in exchange for living organs. Dr. Chen began her own investigation, diving deep into medical records dating back decades. What she discovered in the hospital's archived files made her question everything she thought she knew about reality. The pattern stretched back over 50 years. Children across the country, all between ages 6 and 10, all missing organs after losing teeth. The cases were scattered, never enough in one place to draw attention, always written off as rare medical conditions or unexplained developmental abnormalities. But Dr. Chen saw the truth hidden in the data. Someone, or something, had been systematically harvesting organs from children for generations, using the innocent tradition of the tooth fairy as the perfect cover. Late one night, as she pored over decades of medical files in her office, Dr. Chen heard something that made her freeze. The soft patter of feet in the hospital corridor, too light to be an adult, too purposeful to be a lost child. The footsteps stopped outside her door. Through the frosted glass, she could see a silhouette. Tall and impossibly thin, with elongated limbs that seemed to bend at wrong angles. It stood perfectly still for what felt like hours, as if it knew she was there, as if it was studying her. When Dr. Chen finally found the courage to open the door, the hallway was empty. But on the floor where the figure had stood was a single ancient tooth, so old it crumbled at her touch. The sweet, rotting smell filled the air, and somewhere in the distance, she could hear the faint sound of children crying. That night, Dr. Chen made a decision that would seal her fate. She would stay at the hospital and wait for the next child to lose a tooth. She would finally see the creature that had been stealing pieces of children for generations. She had no idea that the entity she sought had already noticed her investigation. And it was hungry for more than just children's organs. Dr. Chen's vigil lasted 3 sleepless nights before 10-year-old Lucy Harrison was admitted to the children's ward. Lucy had lost her canine tooth that afternoon and was scheduled for a routine tonsillectomy the following morning. A perfect opportunity for Dr. Chen to monitor what happened during the night. She positioned herself in the observation room adjacent to Lucy's room, surrounded by monitors and recording equipment. As midnight approached, the hospital seemed to hold its breath. The usual sounds of medical equipment and distant conversations faded to an unsettling silence. At 3:17 a.m., the temperature in Lucy's room dropped 10 degrees. Dr. Chen watched the monitors as her breath became visible in the suddenly frigid air. The child's vitals remained steady, but something was happening that the machines couldn't detect. A shadow began to form in the corner of Lucy's room, growing denser and more defined with each passing moment. Dr. Chen's hands trembled as she watched the impossible unfold before her eyes. The creature that materialized was a grotesque parody of childhood innocence. Its face maintained the cherubic features of a fairy tale character, but stretched and distorted beyond recognition. Its smile revealed rows of mismatched teeth, some tiny and white like baby teeth, others yellowed and ancient, creating a horrifying mosaic of decades of collection. Its fingers were surgical instruments themselves, long silver appendages that moved with the precision of a master surgeon. As Dr. Chen watched in paralyzed horror, the creature approached Lucy's sleeping form with an almost tender care. The operation that followed defied every law of medicine and physics. The creature's instrument fingers passed through Lucy's skin without cutting, extracting what it needed while leaving no trace of entry. Dr. Chen watched as a portion of the child's liver was carefully harvested and placed into a small, ornate box that seemed to exist in the spaces between shadows. But as the creature completed its work, it paused and turned directly toward the observation window. Its ancient eyes met Dr. Chen's, and in that moment she understood with crystal clarity that this entity was far older and far more intelligent than she had imagined. The creature tilted its head and smiled with those horrible mismatched teeth. Then it spoke, its voice like wind through a graveyard. "Dr. Chen, you've been watching us for quite some time. How wonderful that we finally meet. Your research has been illuminating." Dr. Chen tried to run, but found herself frozen as the creature approached the window. "Don't worry, Doctor. We don't typically harvest from adults, but you've seen too much, learned too much. We'll need to make a special exception." The last thing Dr. Chen recorded in her research notes was a single chilling realization. The creature wasn't just taking organs randomly, it was building something piece by piece, child by child. And after 50 years of collection, whatever it was constructing was nearly complete. The next morning, hospital staff found Dr. Chen's office empty. Her research files were gone, her computer wiped clean. The only trace of her investigation was a single ancient tooth on her desk and the lingering smell of rotting flowers. Lucy Harrison recovered fully from her tonsillectomy, with no memory of the night's events. But like all the other children, she would carry a piece of that darkness with her forever. A hollow space where something precious had been taken, replaced by something old and wrong. The tradition continues. Children still lose teeth. Parents still place pillows over small heads and speak of magical fairies who bring coins in exchange for calcium treasures. But sometimes, in houses where the shadows grow too long and the air smells too sweet, children wake up missing more than just teeth. And somewhere in the spaces between sleep and waking, an ancient creature continues its patient work, building toward a purpose that humanity is not yet ready to understand. If your child has recently lost a tooth and seems unusually tired, pale, or complains of mysterious aches, perhaps it's time to look more carefully at what was left under their pillow. Because some exchanges extract a price far greater than you ever imagined paying. Don't let this nightmare end here. Smash that like button if this story sent chills down your spine. Subscribe for more disturbing urban legends that blur the line between myth and reality. And tell us in the comments, have you ever noticed anything strange after your child lost a tooth?